Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pondering Passages. I'm Curt Austin. My friend David Mullins is going to join us shortly, and we're going to be talking about Psalm 138. It's a psalm of thanksgiving. It's a psalm that reminds us of the greatness of God and our place in this universe. So join us, come back and listen, and be a part of the conversation. We'll talk to you soon.
Welcome to Pondering Passages. Today we're pondering Psalm 138. I'm here with my good friend, now that he is fully engaged, my good friend
Curt Austin.
Yes, and I'm David Mullins, and we're going to be looking at Psalm 138 this week. We've actually looked at it for a couple of weeks because we weren't able to meet last week. So we should be brimming with insight. And I know, Curt, you're usually brimming with insight.
Well, I'm brimming.
Well, yeah. So what do you think?
I mean, my dog once in a while if he wanders around. It was. I wish we could have done it last week. Last week was Thanksgiving.
Yes,
it was a perfect psalm for Thanksgiving.
Perfect for Thanksgiving. But however, know what? Thankfulness is good anytime. It's never too late to say thank you. That's one of the lessons.
There's no time for Thanksgiving like the present time.
Yes.
There. Hashtag. Put that on a bumper sticker.
What's that? No present time for Thanksgiving.
There he is. Okay. I just have to make sure my dog doesn't
chew
take
on
advantage
things.
Of freedom. Yeah.
He knows you're busy. So
I know. And he usually sleeps, but he's pretty engaged He's pretty engaged right now.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, so Psalm 138, Psalm of David, it again attributed to David.
Yeah.
But I liked this. It was one of the psalms where there's only two places in the entire psalm that are not directly speaking to God that I could pick out. Because a lot of times in Psalms, it'll start with, we're talking to God. Now I'm talking to the people. Now I'm talking to me, or, this is my story. Then this is the people's story. This was, God, I give you thanks with all my heart.
Yeah.
I'll sing these praises before all the gods.
Yeah.
I liked that it was just giving this up to God. Sing your praises, bow before your holy temples as I worship. Praise your name for unfailing love and kindness, for your promises are backed by all the honor of your name. I mean, that's a big deal.
It is. Right? It is. But, back in verse 1, I give you thanks, O Lord, with all my heart. And so one of the questions that would bubble up for me as I ponder this is, Dave, are you giving thanks? Yeah. Are you giving thanks with all your heart? What does that look like? And so that would be a question as I go through this. And I see that this psalmist is giving thanks with all his heart. And then he kind of extrapolates that as he goes through.
Yeah. I bow before your holy temple.
I bow.
That's one of those English words.
Yeah.
And I like that. I mean, the holy temple is the location where God lives in the mindset of the Hebrew people. And,
right.
And so he's reverence and honor to this location of God. Praise your name for all your unfailing love and kindness. And that's a recurring theme, right? 136 was that his unfailing love.
And it's the same word, chesed, and it equates with agape love. Some of the watchers of this or listeners might be familiar with the Greek word agape, that is this unconditional love. It's hard to fully translate, and we've talked about that before. It's very nuanced, and so you'll see that translated different ways, but it's always about God's steadfast love, his unfailing love, that lasts forever. Such a wonderful description of God's love. And, we jump down to verse 3. This was something that just, I don't know, really stood out to me. As soon as I pray
about this, what did you think about that?
Well, Yeah. Yeah. As soon as I pray, you answer me. God doesn't put us on hold. Is that what you're wondering? Does
Well,
God
I
put
mean,
us?
maybe I'm praying for something and it takes 5 years for the answer to come around. How does
Well,
that align with
how are you
this?
defining the answer?
When I asked years ago, I was reading the passage that said, "You have not because you ask not."
Right.
Right. So I put out there, God, and also on Facebook and Instagram,
Okay.
I want a pickup truck.
Right.
No, but I didn't get a pickup truck. And nobody responded on Facebook saying, you know what, God just told me I'm supposed to give you a pickup truck. Nobody.
No
And
one.
so I went for 3 whole years without a pickup truck, and
Yeah.
then I got one from my dad.
What's the rest of that passage in James, though?
I don't remember that. I just remember that one part.
You ask and you have not because you asked with the wrong desires, the wrong agenda, wrong. Yeah. There's other pieces to that.
See, I only read that first part. I liked that first part because
But
I thought for sure I was going to get a truck because I asked.
yeah.
So what about verse 3 here? As soon as you pray, I pray, you answer me.
Well, here's kind of how I view prayer and answer. God answers his prayer with himself. With his presence, with the fact that he is with us, the fact that he in fact, our prayer is only a response to his initiation. So whenever we have that sense to pray, God initiates that, but he is the answer to our prayers. I mean, ultimately.
Well, the parallelism, right? As soon as I pray, you answer me. The kind of the extension of that statement is you encourage me by giving me strength. You're not giving me a better house. You're not giving me better food. You're not giving me a better job. You're not giving me a better family. You're giving me strength
Yeah.
to face day by day. What's verse 4 say?
It moves into the king, and this is why
Okay,
it's attributed to David. And the folks that take a look at what the context was when this was written think that it was a king that was saying this because of it, but they're not sure. It might not have been. It might have been someone thinking about the kings, and so that the kings could use this and saying, every king in all the earth will thank you, Lord, for all of them will hear your words. I mean, what do you think of that one, Curt?
I liked that in that it put the authority of God above the kingdoms, right, of the earth. It kind of put it in, and again, a lot of times the psalm writer will say something to the effect of, like verses 1 and 2. God, this is how great you are. Verses 3 and 4 are all of the kings will tremble because our God is so great. So it's kind of shifts. This is just reaffirming to God what God already knows is that you're above all of those. They'll hear about it. They'll tremble because they'll be. And it's interesting. They don't tremble in this passage. They'll thank you, God.
Yeah. Yeah, and the sad reality is that if this was written by David, maybe he's thinking about future kings. The kingdom is being established. But the sad thing is, every king in all the earth did not thank the Lord. I think all of them perhaps heard his words, at least the Israel and the ones over Israel and Judah. But they were not all good kings. Their hearts were not all turned toward God. Some of them worshipped idols and false gods. But yet, I think it's more of an unfortunate thing that even true in our day, not just kings, but, maybe even some of those watching this don't always thank God. We might complain.
Do you think that this is more of the way it should be kind of a statement?
I would say, yeah, very much aspirational. Yes,
it's aspirational that when they hear all of your words, they really should be, thanking you.
Yeah, that is the correct. That is the, I don't want to say correct response. That is the appropriate response.
Yeah,
and that's
they really should be singing about your ways, Lord.
Yeah, And that should be our response too. I mean, if you really step back and take a look at it, because he's getting there.
Hmm.
The glory of the Lord is very great. He's very transcendent. He's very
Hmm.
high above us, like you said, high above every king. But yet, verse 6, he cares for the humble.
Yeah, I love this shift. And this is the first verse where you have to say, okay, is he shifting away from talking to God, but now just talking about God? But this is, and I'm not a Hebrew scholar, so I don't read Hebrew. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
But that idea might be that, if there is a triune God, the Lord said to my Lord, right,
Yeah.
sit at my right hand. And so maybe in this is a statement still to God. The Lord is great. God, you are great, right?
Yeah, very well.
Care for he cares, or you care for the humble.
Yeah.
And yet you keep your distance from the proud.
Yeah, and that is a scary statement.
Well, just because you're so prideful.
I know.
It's just, if you weren't so prideful, Dave.
Just our friendship. I'm very proud of that, because not everyone can call you a friend.
And every time you do that, God gets farther away. Stop doing that, Dave.
Yeah, it just. But I think it's something, we really need to realize that Saint Teresa Avila would say humility is truth. Humility is recognize who we truly are, and that is what this psalm is doing. God, you're above the kings, you're above us, but yet you care for the humble and the proud. Well, you know what? They kind of distance themselves from you, because again, the proud, they don't necessarily need the Lord.
Yeah, that's exactly. I was just going to say that exact same thing. Only, the way this is written, he keeps his distance from the proud. Well,
Right.
Why? Why would he invest all of his time and energy in somebody who doesn't want him, doesn't need him? I think back to our conversation. We've had this conversation before about the king of Egypt. When God was trying to get the people free, and his pride it would not allow that. The king's pride would not allow that to happen, and God was just like, and his heart was hardened again and again and again.
Because if God is the Lord, if he is the king, it means I'm not.
Yeah.
Because there's only one. And so for the Pharaoh, it's like, no, there's no one going to be greater than me.
Pharaoh. I kept saying king.
Pharaoh.
Right? Pharaoh.
Yeah. But one of the things that I think we tend to do, and I'm talking even about followers of Jesus, is we have this temptation to want to use God for our purposes. So we post, I want this truck. You're calling it. And so,
hey, now it's personal.
Well, yeah. But I mean, we all do that. We try.
Yes.
The athletes, or the band that I saw, I forget what band it was, but they're not a Christian band, swearing up a storm. And then it's like, all right, let's pray.
Yeah. Before they go on stage or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, well, what is that? Well, because we want God to bless us in this, but really the rest of our lives, we don't really have a place for God. We don't know where God fits in. But when I'm going to do something important, I'm going to pray.
We had our small group last night. We were talking about prayer, and they said, one of the pastors, he was talking about the fact that he's always called a vending machine God. That we want to be able to put in our request, like putting in our quarters and pulling the knob and getting what we want, without any other responsibility. And I think it's a wonderful image, and we've used it the last few weeks as we've been talking. It's like, that's it was the reason we keep bringing it up, because it sticks. That's a good way to think about.
Yeah, and another term for that is transactional. We have a transactional relationship with God. So it's like I'm making transactions with him. And so, here's what I want. And your job, God, is to give me what I need. And if you don't, then there's something wrong. And some people say, this whole Christianity doesn't work. Well, of course, it reminds me of a movie with Jim Carrey, where he's what's it? Almighty Bruce Almighty, to
Okay.
where God puts him in charge of answering all the prayers, and so he just answers everything yes. And so there's like this riot because everyone wins the lottery, and so their piece of the lottery is like $17. It's like millions of dollars, and everyone wins $17, and they just go crazy. And it's very much a secular movie, but it points out that if all of my wishes are answered, and all of your wishes are answers, and everyone's wishes answered, it's not going to be a very pleasant place.
Well, especially if our wishes do not align with what God truly wants.
Exactly.
Right? Now, if they all aligned, great.
Yes.
End to world hunger, sure. If we all were really meant that, that's one of the things that we're reading Life Together by Bonhoeffer, and he makes a statement in there that that there is a philosophical truth that the end of hunger cannot happen until someone's willing to give up a portion of what they have.
Yes, I was going to say, there's an old, I don't know, it's almost a cliche that someone says, God, why don't you send someone to fix this? And he's like, well, I sent you.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. And so, we continue on in verse 7, again, verse 6 for context, if I can actually get back over there. The Lord is great. He cares for the humble, but he keeps his distance from the proud. Verse 5. Verse 3, as soon as I pray, you answer me. You encourage me by giving me strength. And then down verse 7, I am surrounded by troubles. You will protect me from the anger of my enemies. You reach out your hand, and the power of your right hand saves me. And this would be very important for a king.
I love that.
But it's also very important for us.
Yeah.
We might not have enemies, but sometimes our circumstances might seem like enemies, and they might seem very angry. But when we put ourselves in God's hand, he will save us. It might not look like the way we want it to look, which is always hard for us, but he does save us. And like you were saying earlier, well, yeah, why don't you end world hunger? Well, what are you willing to give up to be part of that?
Exactly.
Well, you'll save me, but that salvation might look differently than what I have in mind.
Right.
And I think that takes really into verse 8. Whose plans? See how that in there?
And this is the second place where he goes to a kind of a first person, or the first person for the Lord will work out his plans for my life. And I think it's almost an affirmation of, again, affirmative statement of God, you will work out those plans. Yeah. Kind of a self-reminder of, I'm not in this alone. Right.
Well, what was that?
That was my dog.
Yeah. My dogs are barking. Or my dog. Yeah, I guess it's one dog. But the Lord will work out, and I love this, his plans for my life.
Yes. Not my plans for my life.
Yeah, exactly. Or my plans for his life, which is sometimes, God, why don't you do this?
And here's the thing is, it's not, the Lord will work out his plans for my life so that I can have a better life, or so that more people can be blessed, no, it's because God's faithful love endures forever. Mm-hmm. It is central to that relationship, because love does not stand by itself. It's relational,
right? Just
by the very nature of it. And so God's plans are part of his absolute love for us as they work out in our lives. I mean, that's just, if you took verse 8 away, you could be really reminded of God's goal in this relationship that we have together.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And, he's working out his plans, sometimes in spite of us, but I think things are a lot easier when it's like we get on the same page and say, Lord, I'm on the same page with you, and work out your plan, whatever that is. Here I am, because I know it's based in your faithful love that endures forever. And then this last little part of verse 8, I felt it really was a departure from the rest of the psalm.
It feels like an add-on that somebody at some point kind of added. However,
Yeah.
I never really used that kind of speech pattern before. That's really interesting. However, don't abandon me, for you made me it goes back to, the power of your right hand saves me.
Yeah.
And I think it then it's a reminder also that this relationship that we're in is because God started the whole thing.
Yeah.
God created me.
I don't know. He's just going through the whole thing, and especially the end of verse 8. Your faithful love endures forever. Oh, don't abandon me, for you made me. It's, I really connect with, for you made me. I am yours. Here I am. But the rest of it is really talking about how God doesn't abandon him. Maybe this is the other side of it, that God is God and I am not, and so he added that little part to the prayer.
Should have been verse 9, but who are we?
Well, I wish it was like verse 4 or something.
Move it higher up.
Yeah, so we didn't have to end on that. It just, because
well, I tell you what.
Say, well, God, at least in the New Testament, maybe that's the whole thing for the New Testament. What we learned is, and maybe this is a response, God's response, where Jesus says, I will not forsake you. I will be with you to the end of the age. Language like that. I won't abandon you. You don't have to worry about that. You will not be abandoned. You might try your best to take yourself out of my hands, but I am still going to uphold you.
But you compare this to 137. I'll take it however it's laid out. Compared to Psalm 137. You want to put it in verse 4? Fine. You want to put it in verse 9? No, I don't care. Just because, that was such a kind of a shock of a psalm, whereas 138 is just a praise, just thanksgiving. And a beautiful reminder of who's in charge, what's my relationship to that, and keeping me in the background, not in the foreground.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I'm really excited because in 11 weeks or maybe 12 weeks, guess what?
I know. I was thinking about. I woke up this morning thinking about that.
12 weeks, 3 months. If we hit it hard, well, we'll probably take some time off for the holidays, but Psalm 1.
I'm off. We get to Psalm 1, and then we go 68 more weeks, just about one more year. And then we're done. And that's kind of, I was thinking about that.
The pandemic will be over.
We're the things causing it not to stop.
God is just waiting for us to finish this thing up so he can say, all right, everyone back to normal.
Man, can you imagine if I don't know how long this pandemic, with the new variant that's just been announced this last week. It's like a new rollout of an iPhone, right? This is an upgrade. It's better, bigger and better.
Hopefully,
but can you imagine though if we end up taking this entire time under lockdown, or under COVID, the whole Psalm thing? Man, let's hope that there's a point where that's kind of lightened up.
Yes, that's our prayer. Well, Curt, I'm so glad we're on this journey together. And as always, people can like the video. They
Please
can
do.
Subscribe to the video. They can send it to their friends. And we allow that.
This is our mascot now. For those of you watching the video, this is our mascot right here.
Louis. He does pizza.
Louis.
He makes pizza. Louis. Yeah. And he loves Curt. It's good to know that,
He wants to go out. So let's wrap this up.
Yes. And you can find us on, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram,
wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah.
Follow us, like us, love us.
Yeah. Don't be a stranger.
We need that validation.
Yeah. Some of us do.
All right, folks. We'll talk to you soon.
be a good
I
thing.
sent some stuff by UPS. I sent gift cards by
Yeah.
UPS to some sites, and I said, I want to insure this. He said, can't do it. I said, what do you mean you can't do it? He said, we can insure the value of the plastic. We cannot insure the monetary value of the card.
Oh, they have no idea if there was any money on the card.
That's what he said. He said, so let's say you insure it for $1,000 and it gets stolen, but it in fact was only worth 36 cents because you'd already spent all the $1,000 of the gift cards. He said, I'm not saying you did that. He said, I'm sure you didn't. He said, but that's the scam that they're afraid of.
Well, I would not be surprised if that's a scam that hasn't already happened.
It's a good scam. I wish I'd thought of it. I could have, but so I was like, well, just remember that.
All the good scams are already thought of.